If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
And we welcome you into the Hannycast for Monday, March the 31st. I'm Charles Hannagriff, along with Doug Thompson and Dan Cannaveri. And LSU coming off of a 3-game sweep of Mississippi State. If you saw all 27 innings of the game, then you have quite a bit of stamina, because the second 2 games didn't end until well into the wee hours of the next morning. So, guys, I want to start with the 2 players that I think are winning games for LSU right now in their roles, and that's Zach Cowan and Kason Evans. They have been pitching in the highest leverage situations that LSU has, pitching with short leads. Cowan has hardly walked anybody the whole season. And right now, we'll get into the discussion about what their roles will be moving forward. But right now, Doug, these 2 guys are pitching in the most important innings for LSU, and they're doing a great job at it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about them last week. They're consistent. And, for any college coach, one of the main things you're looking for is some consistency. Somebody that can go out there, you know what you're going to get, you know when they're going to throw strikes, you know when they're going to struggle. You know the indicators of when they start to struggle. The worst guys are the ones that go out one night, look like All-Americans, strike out 3 guys on 11 pitches, and then the next night out they walk 5 guys and nobody can. That's the opposite. Like, inconsistency is a killer, especially for a coach. So I would say those 2 guys have been easily the most consistent and most dominant as well. But I think the 2 kind of relate together. When you throw it over the plate, good things happen. And they both do that, and of course, when I say they both, I was talking about the other guy you're talking about, which I assume is Evans.
Yeah, Cowan and Evans, both of the ERAs are right around 1. They've got 25 and 20 innings pitched, respectively. So, Dan, the question that fans are going to ask, and I think it's worth asking, is, are these guys going to be starting pitchers for you at some point in the near future or in the distant future?
I tell you what, I think, that you got to look at it as they're valuable winning games the way they are, because they're weapons. You can bring them in when the game's on the line. And Doug, you know this from many times when we would talk, is the game could be won or lost in the 4th inning, not necessarily the 8th inning. So having these guys available when you really know the game could be won or lost and bringing them in might be more valuable. I think you got to throw a 3rd guy in there that's really been consistent for the most part is Cade Anderson. So the fact that Jay knows he's got 3 guys and he pretty much knows what he's going to get when they get on the mound, and they're very effective, that's pretty good at this point in the season. I think that's pretty good. We'd like to get more and more guys, as we used to say, step up and graduate. I think he needs more of that as we move forward. I think these guys are going to stay in these roles for a while, and as more people step up, then they might be able to move into a starting role, because, Doug, you can attest to this. Those outs at the end of the game or in those high leverage situations are the hardest ones to get.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. In the 9th inning, they're all like finding a golden egg at an Easter egg hunt for sure. And just to elaborate, I mean, yeah, I think if maybe let's say I was just looking at all these guys, a Jacob Myers and William Schmidt, we're pitching up to what we think they can do with their stuff alone. This could be a discussion that would be worth having. And I say, considering Chase Shores' struggle so far, although I'm looking at his numbers, it's not like he's, it's not like it can't be fixed or it's that broken. Opponents hitting 299 against him is the biggest one. He's getting hit around a little bit. But if that continued to become an issue and things were to start changing, like you were to start losing a lot of games on the weekend, then maybe if those other 2 or 3 guys, like you said, those other guys would graduate, Cano, then I think obviously
Cowan,
would be the first man up to fill that hole. And then I don't think you give up on Chase Shores no matter what as a starter. I think you bump him to that midweek and when he gets his first outing with 14 or 15 strikeouts and he kind of gets that rhythm and feels it, then maybe, consider moving him back in. But it's a great problem to have. But the coolest thing to know is always it's inevitable that it's almost every postseason that someone's going to get the ball in their hand, that it's in a must situation. Will Helmer's last year. Even you can include Thatcher Hurd last year in Chapel Hill. They're going to get the ball in their hand. They don't have a lot of time, certainly not as much as the three starters, but they're going to have to win the game. But to have a guy like Zach Cowan as potentially that guy, and if he jumped in the rotation, Chase Shores potentially being that guy, it's not a bad spot for the Tigers to be in. But I think Cano said it best, to be honest with you. Two or three guys are on the verge of graduating, and when they do, this pitching staff is going to get much better and much deeper.
Yeah, a month from now, you may feel differently, but Ianson, this was his longest outing of the SEC season. I think he's getting better. I thought Shores pitched better than his line would indicate. He had a tough second inning. He was pitching with an 8-run lead. Doug, I've heard enough pitchers say this, that sometimes, when you're pitching with a huge lead, it's a little bit tougher because it's just throw strikes. You've got an 8-run lead. So I thought he pitched a little bit better than the line indicated. He took the ball off of his face, and he still finished. I like the fact that Zach Cowan can be used twice in a weekend. They used him twice in the Missouri series. So he's got, as a reliever, the potential to affect more than one game. So for all of those reasons, and I think Evans could do that too, although he hasn't yet. For all those reasons, you stay right where you are right now. And a month from now, if things are a little bit different, we'll talk about it then. But I like where they are with what they're doing right now, because I think it gives them the most flexibilities, and it's also the most upside, I think, for those two guys in the rotation now, and Ianson and Shores, to develop.
Well, I like it. And Doug, I'm going to elaborate on some guys you talked about, but I think this year's Thatcher Hurd is Chase Shores. I mean, like last year, Thatcher Hurd struggled, but then at the end he figured it out and he came through, and he came through. The guy we're talking about that comes out and really gives you the outing when you need it. Mm-hmm. I think he's that kind of a guy. There's three guys in my mind that we used to say are pick to click. Guys that I think are going to graduate if given more opportunities. I really like Connor Ware, and the fact he's left-handed makes a big difference. He's got a lot of experience at the junior college. He had one bad outing, which blew up his earned run average, but he's been pretty consistent the last couple of outings and short outings. Another guy, Cooper Williams, still hasn't given up an earned run. Left-hander, so I see him coming in there. But
great job, me a lot. Great job. You can put whatever the line is tomorrow night on Cooper Williams giving up a home run. Jump on it. Cano just jinxed him.
Yeah, of course. But he's got to give up a homer. He doesn't pitch at LSU, right?
That's true.
How many homers did our guys give up? You got to give it up, or you're not in real games, right?
You like Cooper Williams too.
I'll tell you what, though, Newt is starting to make a move, and I think that's a guy that could really shore up the bullpen. Pitch on Tuesday, give you 3-4 innings, and then be ready on the weekend.
Yeah, and I mean, Benj, William Smith, those guys are close too. But the reality is, the truth is, I mean, this weekend almost, I mean, it wasn't best case scenario. Let's just put it that way. Like, worst case scenario would have been having to burn them both in one game. I guess second worst case scenario would have to use them both for 4 innings in a game each, right? Because then you're kind of out there flapping in the wind for game 3. And that's what happened this last weekend. But what we're talking about, really, like one more guy gaining that confidence from Jay and Kocheski and all the guys, like just one more guy would allow one more person to come in and maybe minimize those pitches that those guys need to use, Cowan and Evans. And I think it would be ideal if you had Cowan and right now, while both of them aren't starting, it would be ideal to have them both available at least twice.
Mix and match.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though. Remember this. Going into the season as a coach, boy, Gavin Guidry was that guy.
Yeah.
That we're looking for. That's right. The big hole in everything.
You're right. You're
tossing out the window.
Yeah. You're right. And that doesn't get, people have somehow, you just don't hear that much. And you're right, Ken. That was the guy.
That was the guy. Now you got 3 guys that can do it, and you can really do some work. One inning, 2 nights, and you mix and match it. Each of them throw 3 innings in a weekend. You got the last 2 innings covered in every game.
Charlie, this guy knows what he's talking about a little bit.
Yeah, it's almost like he's been in the dugout for some of these big games over the years. You would think. We're brought to you by Marucci. From a backyard shed to the top of the game, Marucci, more than just a baseball bat company. It's a legacy built on passion and precision, with 2 decades of crafting the finest wood, metal, and leather in the sport. We're here to help you run the game. Visit MarucciSports.com to gear up with the best, and also by Bayou Apparel. If you're looking for anything LSU, go to everythinglsu.com. Made by locals, ships from Baton Rouge. Bayou Apparel, call 225-928-9090 or go to everythinglsu.com. I think I know what you guys are going to tell me, but I'm going to ask anyway. Cade Anderson had his roughest outing of the year on Thursday, and it was the first time he'd come back on 6 days instead of 7 days. Now, to most people, that doesn't sound like a big deal. So I'm asking you, is it a big deal that it threw his routine off a little bit? And I'm asking because LSU's got 3 more Thursday, Friday, Saturday series in the last 7, including this one this week against Oklahoma. So, Doug, I'll start with you. Big deal or no big deal?
No, I don't think so. I don't. It's just one day. No, I don't think so. I don't think that's what you chalk it up to. I look, the first inning, there were some things, right? Like they hit the home run. I'm trying to pull up the actual box score to kind of rehash my memory. Yeah, they scored the inevitable 2 there. Reese homered to right field. Powell homered again to left field. But that was a solo shot. The one in the first inning was a 2-run home run. But if you remember, a couple of the hits in the first inning were just kind of dinks. He threw good pitches. Like, honestly, I really didn't. Let me see. What was his final line? Let me see. Okay, I got it.
He 4.1 innings.
Hits, 6
5
hits.
runs, 5 earned, 6 hits.
Yeah.
2 walks, 5 strikeouts.
And he gave up the 3 home runs. But to me, honestly, it wasn't really a terrible outing. For him, it was, but it wasn't really a terrible outing. He got dinked and dunked. He did give up the 3 home runs, but I think he had plenty of good enough stuff to win, is what I'm getting at. And so no, I don't think that we had this, because next week's a Thursday start too, is right?
Yes, it is.
So actually, that won't matter because he'll go back to the full week's rest. But no, Charlie, I wouldn't think, but I'm also from the era of guys that if you got pulled in the 3rd inning on a Friday night start back in the day, you may very well close on Sunday for 3 or 4 innings.
Oh yeah,
so,
that was it.
Things are a little bit different, but honestly, the difference between 6 and 7 days, I really don't think that that's the reason why Cade necessarily had a tough outing. I think those guys were swinging the bat pretty well, and they had some great at bats against him. And he left some pitches over the plate. They hit some pitches, and then he made some good pitches that they were able to drop in for hits too. And sometimes I still have yet to see anybody. And maybe the Nola guy came real close, I think. But and obviously Skeens was pretty good, but he did lose a game or 2 in the SEC. I've never seen someone just run through the SEC without a start exactly like that one from Cade Anderson.
I want to say this, Charlie. I'm with Doug in that. You got to have that outing if you pitch enough. Like it's baseball.
Yeah.
It's just you can't be great. And remember, Mississippi State, they're coming into the box. It's a big rivalry for them, probably bigger for them than it is for us. And they're the inevitable 2 people we talk about it, but highly adrenalized early in the game. And Cade Anderson's a strikeout long ball guy. I mean, he gives up homers because the way he pitches. But luckily, he doesn't walk a lot of people, so he doesn't give up a lot of multi-run homers. But it's just part of the way he pitches. So I think he did a heck of a job. But I'm going to say this, Doug. If it matters to Cade that he'd had 6 instead of 7, that may be a factor. You know what I mean? Like part of the pitching thing is the mentality of the guy. What does he feel comfortable with?
Right.
So
is day 6 the day he eats Fruity Pebbles and wears the blue sock?
Well, hey, 7 days I'm like 7 days I'm really good. I'm ready. That one day really makes it. You don't know. Because we're part psychologists.
All I'll say is, Cano, if there were something and Cade mentioned it, I'm sure there would have been an adjustment. Right. But I'm sure they asked him, hey, are you good with this? And I'm sure he said, yeah, I'm fine. But
I'm going to go with the Thomas Edison theory, Skip's Thomas Edison theory. They found out something that doesn't work. Maybe. So
And that's exactly what I thought you guys were going to tell me. So you asked and answered. I want to ask you about Zach Cowan. When you watch him pitch, Doug, there's nothing that you see out of him. I mean, he's not 6'8" like Shores is. He doesn't throw 99 miles an hour. He doesn't have this outlandish, pitch that nobody's ever seen before. He's an average sized guy. He's got average, he's got good velocity, but nothing, off the chart. But everything looks the same coming out of his hands, and it does not look the same by the time it gets to the plate. I'm just wondering, because people ask, how is this guy so effective when he just looks like, another average pitcher, and he's anything but that?
I mean, I guess the same way Kevin Shipp did, or Scott.
I was going to say Doug Thompson did.
He has a plus off-speed pitch that he can command, his changeup. Maybe the best changeup on the team, might be one of the best changeups in the league. And he has command with his fastball. And you can't really get him too riled up. Like, that's my favorite part about him is I'm going to start calling him the Iceman, because he just has literally, like, kid didn't even have a wrinkle on his face. I mean, it's impressive. He repeats I wish I could watch 50 pitches in a row, like laid over each other in a video, because I guarantee you, his shoelaces look the same at the top of his leg kick every time. Like he's almost like a robot out there. But he's got a really, really good off-speed pitch, and he can command his fastball. And in college baseball, that's really a big key to the whole deal. If you can locate two pitches, and one of those pitches is a really good curveball, slider, changeup, you got a good chance to win. And I think he understands his strengths. I think he's very confident with that changeup. I think he feels like he can throw it in any count. Again, Cano, since you used my name, I'll tell you, like, if a 3-1 curveball to me was like calling a 3-1 fastball. Like, I didn't. For me, it was the same thing. Not everybody feels that. In fact, I would even go further to say, some days I needed to throw my curveball 3 or 4 times to throw a fastball for a strike.
Right, your curveball was your strike pitch that day.
Yeah, it's like maybe my right brain is the fastball, and I just couldn't. And I throw 3 curveballs, and then boom, okay, there's the fastball. It's a weird thing, but no, I think he's older. He's as composed as they come. He's got a plus off-speed pitch, and he commands his fastball. And I think he's very, very good. Is he a big league starter? I don't know about that, but is he a big league college pitcher? Yeah, he's one of the best ones that we'll see. In fact, I'll go on to say that I was talking to one of the staff members. I won't tell you which one, but they actually said, we're really lucky we didn't run into him last year in Chapel Hill. I'm not sure if we would have been received the same coming home after getting beat by Wofford as we did in that heartbreaker against UC, because he would have had our number. And I said, why? And he said, that changeup, man. Like we would have had a lot of trouble with that changeup. So take that.
You see, you go watch him pitch, and then you say, "Hey, you want to come play for us?" Cano, you remember if the rules would have been different? Was it Jock Jones that came in and hit 3 homers at the box in a regional, and the crowd started hollering transfer? Yeah. Was it him? I think it was him.
Yes, it was him. USC.
Yeah, that was back before you could, everybody.
Well, you could transfer, but there was no portal.
Right. They didn't
could transfer and not have to sit out back in those days in baseball.
I gave the crowd credit for being clever with that one. That was before everybody was transferring. They wanted him to come over. We're brought to you by Dependable Storage. 8 locations around Louisiana and 1 in Gulfport, Mississippi. Check out the facilities in Slidell and Youngsville are the newest ones. They'll match any competitor's pricing, convenient online rentals and payments, free use of the moving truck for new rental move-ins, clean, secure, and conveniently located facilities. Check out the website at dependablestorage.com for location, pricing, and rentals. Like Skip says, at Dependable Storage, we want your stuff. And by Lake Urgent Care, with 25 years of experience. Lake Urgent Care, dedicated to providing quality care close to home. They treat minor illnesses and injuries for ages 3 months and up at 17 convenient locations in Baton Rouge, Hammond, Livingston, and Ascension parishes. Plus, they offer occupational health and weight loss solutions. A seamless extension of Our Lady of the Lake. Patients can access care from anywhere with the My Chart patient portal. The urgent care centers are open 7 days a week. You can walk in, check in online, or schedule a virtual care visit at lakeurgentcare.com. Dan, you and I were talking before we started here today. You're kind of bullish on this team, where they are right now, but also where they can go and where they are in their development. We're a couple of weeks away from what Skip would always say is tax time. You need to have everybody's roles defined. They're right on schedule. You're really bullish about the long-term potential here.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I want to say this, and I want to ask Doug this question. I think, first of all, I want to state this. I think Jay Johnson is as good a coach of anyone in the country at teaching team offense. Like, we're a really good team offense. You know, the lineup works together. I think he's created a team that can score runs in many different ways, which helps you win many different types of ball games. And Doug, you've been in enough of those. There's some that are 2-1. There's some that are blowouts. There's some that are, 18-12. You know, they keep going back and forth. I think Jay's offense can do that. I think that because of the transfer portal and the way it goes now, it takes longer to figure out your pitching because you don't have the guys back from the year before saying, okay, well, this guy can do this guy can do that. We know what we're getting, because a lot of those guys aren't willing to work and wait anymore, and they leave. And then you got guys coming in. And, Doug, let's face it, your first year coming into LSU took a while for Skip to figure out who you were, how to use you. And then your second year, you were all in. I think these guys coming in from the portal, it takes the coaches time to figure out who they are and how they're best used. And then you got to get them in situations and figure them all out. I think that's changed a little bit. It's kind of extended figuring out the pitching. But I think Jay's offense keeps him in every single series and gives them the potential to definitely win 2 out of 3, but 3 out of 3 because of the way they swing the bat as a team and the way they wear down the other team's pitching staff over the weekend.
I mean, I would agree with some of that, Cano, but it's really hard to compare something Skip Bertman did to anyone else. But like, I would disagree and say that it didn't take Skip that long.
It didn't take him long
to figure out what he could do with me. And I'll go back to what we just talked about. He had a system. If you could throw a pitch, certain pitch, fastball, curveball, slider, whatever, if you could throw it 7 out of 10 times where he asked you to, not just like in theory, like literally every week, fastball away, 1 for 1, fastball in, 1 for 2. If you could do that 7 out of 10 times, and then you turn and throw your next pitch 7 out of 10 times for a strike, I think right then and there in that bullpen, the only other question mark he had was, can this kid compete? He told me that. The first time he ever saw me pitch, he stopped the bullpen after I threw 3 or 4 curveballs. Well, wait a minute. Listen, I can make you good, right? But you have to be able to give me a little movement on that fastball. But he knew right when he saw an off-speed pitch, whether my curveball was a good curveball or not is not the point. The point is, when he saw that I could throw it for a strike and bounce it when he asked me to and throw it back door to a lefty, he knew because of his system, I'm good as long as he doesn't collapse under any intense pressure. So I think what we all did, we all made the same mistake, and except for Tommy Thompson, my 74-year-old dad who's seen a lot of baseball too. When I was saying to the all these things that we do, these podcasts, 1095 mile an hour arms. That's the truth. And I think we can be excited. I think on this podcast, I think we can be quote unquote, I think we can be excited about the pitching staff now because, the major league fastball average is 94.1. Here's what Tommy Thompson was saying in my ear. Can they pitch? Yeah. Because of course, growing up, I was never going to be that high velo guy, but he was my dad. So what was his message to me my whole life? Like, it doesn't matter how hard you throw. What matters is that you can throw strikes. And I think all of us, the media, maybe even some of the staff, they were seeing these things. They had to be excited about it. Oh my goodness, look at all these big arms. But when I really thought about the first time I ever had to pitch, which I share with you guys against Baylor in a non-pressure situation, it took me about a solid minute and a half to like really figure out, like catch a deep breath. Like I was completely overwhelmed by that moment. Now for me, fortunately, I had 245 JUCO innings, right? So I was hardened to some degree to be able to go through that and deal with it. But man, when you just talk about this transfer kick portal, going to places like Utah Valley State with this Dickinson kid, it's not always going to be like that, because that guy's not always going to be able to breathe the same way he did when there was 83 people at the game where they came from. So we all kind of fell for it, but now it's all kind of coming back to, man, there are big arms. There's a bunch of major league talent there. There's no question, big draft picks. But can they all pitch in this environment right now? Can they all execute at a 67 to 75% strike ratio? If they can, we should have said, watch out. But if they're going to be big arms that throw 55% strikes, every game we're going to be on the edge of our seats. That's just the way it's going to be if we can't get it over the plate.
Charlie, I want to add something to what Doug said, and then I'll let you go. Doug, the one thing, too, that you got to add to being able to throw your pitches and throw them in a bullpen, can you throw that bounce curve on command? Can you throw the curveball for a strike on command? That was the competitive factor that Skip was always looking for. I see it in the bullpen, but when I call it in a game, can you deliver that pitch, not the bad pitch?
Well, and if you want to take it even further, and can you throw the right bouncing curveball?
Right.
Like we could all just bounce a curveball, but
one that was competitive.
If it's 7 feet to the catcher's left and in the left-handed batter's box, like that's not really going to help it. Can you throw the one that bounces somewhere around a hole that big behind the edge of the back point of home?
Clips the dirt into the catcher's mitt. Yeah,
that's right. Can you do that? Can you basically drop it in a bucket 7 out of 10 times around that same bucket circle at the bottom? If you can do that, you can be a big leaguer. I mean, you can pitch it. You can be an all SEC pitcher in college baseball. Maybe not a big leaguer, but again, in college baseball, Skip Bertman says it all the time. If these kids could hit the fastball away, they'd be in professional baseball. Fastball's a way to get ahead, plus breaking stuff, which they have a lot of on this team for a strike. And when you need it in the dirt, really, it's as old as time itself. They're amateur hitters, and you can't tell me that they're better today than they were, because maybe they are bigger, faster, and stronger, but the bats they're using are not better. The bats that we pitched against were rocket launchers, right? We almost hit 200 home runs. So I believe that if you can win back then, 30 years ago, against an SEC that was still putting 4 of 8 teams in the College World Series field every year, if you could win then with pitchers like me and Kevin Shipp, who didn't throw 95 miles an hour, we had plus off-speed pitches and fastballs that we could command. I think that in college baseball, sometimes we forget that, man, let me get the strike thrower as opposed to the kid that's more maybe of a project that just throws really hard, that one day is going to make a great major league pitcher. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And it was nice of you guys to send those bats from the 90s to the Yankees this weekend, because apparently they were using those 1990s -5 bats this weekend. We're brought to you by Dana Brown, the law office of O.C. Brown, law firm for a lifetime. You know, we've used Dana and his team of attorneys for a number of things over the years. So if you need to go in for that initial consultation, which is always free, they're going to get your story. They're going to be able to help you out the way that they've done for us. Truly your law firm for a lifetime. Call them at 225-343-1111 or on the web. It's OCBrown, OSSIEBrown.com. 2 more quick things and then we'll get out of here. Doug, I'll start with you on Luis Hernandez. This young man wasn't asked to catch a lot last year, but he has assumed the full-time catching duties on the weekends. I want you to talk about him as a receiver and the progress that he's made from the beginning, because again, he didn't catch a whole lot last year.
Well, I mean, look, it's tough to catch, and my son's a catcher, and I've learned, although I've always obviously appreciated catchers, what you're seeing isn't always what's happening. Like I've seen some things where there's been some balls that he's missed, but then I see him talking a lot, and sometimes I wonder, is there like a communication issue? Did they hear something differently? Or was there just people get crossed up all the time? But I like him. I like him and Aaron Beatty. I think that they're good college catchers. I think that if they both start hitting, they both boosted their averages over the last week. Luis now up to 280, and Beatty had a big night during the midweek. He's up to 250. By the way, with 3 home runs and 28 at bats, I mean, a home run every 10 at bats isn't bad. So I think you have to slowly but surely keep developing Aaron Beatty, and maybe by midseason they'd be splitting more time back there. But what Hernandez is doing, which you mentioned, Charlie, which is right on spot on. It's tough to catch a lot. Like, it's tough to not have someone to kind of come in and fill. But I think he's done a pretty good job considering he didn't have many reps last year. And that bat's starting to come along too, and plenty good enough arm to control the running game. Like, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we've not had anyone come in and exploit us for not being able to manage our running game. Like, the pitchers have done a great job. The catchers have thrown them out when they've had the opportunities. And I think they're both plenty good enough to help this team get to, through the postseason.
All right, Dan, my question for you is about William Schmidt. He had a rough outing against Texas. He didn't pitch in the series against Mississippi State. I assume he's going to pitch tomorrow night against Louisiana Tech, maybe even start the game. Talk to me about a freshman reset. It's about halfway through his freshman year. Ton of talent there. Trying to get him relaxed and focused here as we're at the halfway point of the season.
Well, April and May is the time for those freshmen to turn into sophomores. And that's a big thing. And Charlie, you're old enough. Do you remember Saturday Night Live back in the day when they had the not ready for primetime players when they first started out?
Yes.
Skip and I love that show. We're both older. And what we say is he's a not ready for primetime player right now, but it doesn't mean he's not going to be ready. He's just got to keep getting out there, keep figuring out, like Doug said, catch his breath out there. He's a hometown kid. And, he feels more pressure than a kid from Utah Valley. So I think it's a big difference, So I think he's going to figure it out. I think the more times he gets out there on a Tuesday night and then pick some spots in the weekend where you can get him in there for 1 or 2 batters, do his thing, and bring him along, I think he's definitely going to be in the mix when they get to the postseason.
All right, LSU going to Oklahoma. I believe this is the Tigers' first ever trip to Norman, unless I missed one somewhere. So Oklahoma in the league now, LSU going there. They are a top 10 team, and LSU will play them on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series this week. 6 o'clock Thursday, 6:30 Friday, and 2 o'clock on Saturday. We'll have the recap for you next week on the Hannycast. For Dan Cannaveri, for Doug Thompson, I'm Charles Hannagriff. This has been the Hannycast.